This is a forbidding beauty. Bolivia, 15,000 feet up in the Andes, the bleak heights of the poorest country of an impoverished continent, South America. 75 years ago, they discovered tin here. Hacked out of the rock is the biggest tin mine in the world. It's called Siglo XX. It means the 20th century. Imprisoned by the mountain, there is a town of 30,000 people. The Barrios family at the start of the day. René has been a miner for 23 years. Breakfast, coffee, weak and without milk. Dry bread. René works underground 7 days a week, and in Bolivia as a miner he is privileged. It's a mile and a half into the center of the mountain, where the air is sour and thin. "27 years ago, Siglo XX was nationalized. It's now a state mine run by a state company. Bolivia depends for its very survival upon these men. Tin is the nation's wealth, which is sold from here to serve the rest of the world. The mine has 500 miles of tunnel, which honeycomb through the mountain in search of tin. This is where tin cans begin. The drills are at work 24 hours a day. Emilio Cerudo has worked here for 13 years. Every day of the week. He hates it.
The life of a miner here is a life of submission. Pushed around this way and that. That's a miner's life. Always suffering, always fighting, risking death at any moment. We go in alive and come out dead.
If they can't drill, they use dynamite, laying charges that blast apart the innards of the mountain. All over the mine, the fuses are lit, and the men head for safety. After 60 seconds, the charge is detonated. The explosions reverberate through the tunnel. Acrid cordite fills the air. The men chew leaves from the cocaine plant. Coca soothes the mind and numbs the empty stomach. Back on the face, they rake away the rubble from which the tin is to be extracted. From 300 tons of rock, they get no more than 1 ton of tin. It's dangerous work. Last year in this mine, there were 1,000 accidents, 1 for every 2 men working here. more dangerous still is the dust. It kills. It killed Emilio's father doing this job. Emilio is paid £1 a day.
Most of the time I come out of the mine tired and depressed. When I get home, I often have to go straight to bed, utterly exhausted.
Emilio's ambition is to get out of the mine before it kills him too. But for the sake of his family, he can't, because there's no other work. He hopes only that his infant son Nelson is spared the same life.
The painful fact is that we can hardly even maintain an interest in the well-being of our wives and our children. It is very sad to have to say it, but that is the reality.
Emilio would need to earn 3 times more than he's paid to give his family the simplest clothes, the plainest diet, to meet only their most basic needs.
Does your family go hungry?
Of course that is true. When there is nothing to eat at home, we worry about it constantly. Somehow our wives have got to feed the family. They have to get some food, a little here, a little from there, wherever they can find it. And sometimes we just have to wait.
By tradition, those miners who work for the state get some of their food cheap, and they're envied. Meat, for instance, is at 1/5 its normal price. The meat arrives infrequently from far away. It's often bad. The wives queue behind bars to collect their allowance from the company store. Such meat is a luxury to be dried and stored or sold off at a black market price to the handful of those in town who can afford it. The company store is full. Tins of ham, salmon and pineapple line the shelves. And they stay there, because miners can't afford them. It's rare for a miner to see the money he earns. Half his wage is paid not in cash, but food tokens, which aren't enough to feed a family. There are deductions too, for schooling, pensions, social security. To survive, the miner is forced into debt with the mine. Debts he can never repay, debts which get deeper. For René Barrios and his family, it's a life of bondage.
Generalmente nosotros ocupamos una vivienda prestada.
We live in a house which is lent to us by the company. It is very small indeed, and with all the children, we have to endure a lot of discomfort. This room is the living room, the dining room, the bedroom, and we even keep the food in here as well. This tiny space is where we all have to live and suffer.
Somehow, the Barrios family preserves its dignity. These are the company houses. The town is isolated from the 20th century, stricken by TB and malnutrition. The houses have no sanitation, the lavatory is the street, and the children die of dysentery. Concepcion Guiterres waits for final absolution. This small mining town buries a baby every day. Siglo XX has rebelled. The miners of Bolivia have long been militant and organized. But in a country which has on average one coup every year, their politics are feared. In this turbulent nation, the miners are therefore kept in silence, except on those occasions when, as now, their generals promise to call an election.
Until a very short time ago, it would have been impossible for a reporter to walk openly in these streets. The entire area was sealed off and under occupation by the army. Now, for the moment at least, that siege has been lifted and there is a rare, if uncertain, freedom here. Rare and uncertain because for much of this century, siglo XX, which has been of great importance not only to Bolivia but to the rest of the world, has known not peace, but fear, repression, and violence.
The army has fought with the miners and crushed them, driving strikers back to work at gunpoint and shooting those who resist.
They started shooting everywhere. They killed women, children, and workers. They shot at anything that moved. It was brutal repression. Without any provocation, they even entered our houses to attack us. We were defenseless against their guns.
Not everyone here belongs to the company, but all depend on it. These men work on the surface, searching in the sludge which flows from the mine. They dig for minute particles of tin which they sift and sell to the company. They don't get a wage. They're paid by the kilo. No tin, no pay. In good times, a man can earn £6 for a 7-day week, working 12 hours a day. There's a 2-year waiting list for a place in the trench. The main mine belongs to the state, but siglo XX is pitted with old, exhausted workings, which the company lets out to anyone willing to mine them. This one is called Dolores, grief. The men who work in Dolores are desperate. For months, they've earned nothing. Their leader tells them that they're deep in debt, nearly £2,000. What to do? Shall we work for nothing to pay the debts? We work for nothing already. To find tin, they need new seams, new equipment, and money. How to get it? Borrowing, deeper than ever in debt. There's no decision because there's no solution. We've been through all this before. They are trapped. And for Cesar Nina, there's no escape. Cesar's brother, Zanu, is in hospital. He was brought in 2 weeks ago vomiting blood. He nearly died. I'm feeling a little better now, he says. He is still critically ill. He has what siglo XX calls the mind sickness, known to his doctor Carlos España as silicosis. Zanu's been coughing blood for 8 years. I want to listen to your chest. Dr. España has already explained to the brothers that silicosis is caused by dust from the mines that destroys the lungs. One out of every 4 miners in the town has silicosis, by far the highest rate in the world. But Zanu has TB as well. Silicosis TB is fatal, and Zanu is dying.
Muy bien, entonces, con este nombre,
The drugs give relief, but they're of poor quality as neither the hospital nor the patient can afford better. Still critical, Zanu leaves hospital because he can't pay the bill. His younger brother helps him home. But Cesar is dying too, from the same disease, silicosis TB. Zanu is 34, Cesar 24. The doctor expects them both to die within 2 years. To survive longer, they'd need special food, constant care, absolute rest. But their home is a mud hut, damp and cold. Zanu is in bed, and now 2 families depend on Cesar.
Yo, bueno, no tengo plata, que estoy en pérdida.
I have no money. I'm broke.
How long since you last had any money?
Hace 4 meses.
4 months. When do you expect to start earning money again?
Bueno, ya pronto, yo creo.
I hope it will be soon.
El porvenir estamos aguantando cuando nosotros
We don't know how we're going to cope. We don't know what's going to happen to our families. When we die, they will end up in the street. They won't have the means to look after each other. They will have to fend for themselves. They will certainly have to fight for life.
The brothers don't know, but the doctor believes that the wives and children have TB as well. TB, and they must live on maize and potatoes, given them by relatives. Cesar feels bound to ignore his doctor's advice.
Porque si ustedes van a... Porque si tú vas a estar
The doctor said if I go on working in the mine, I will die before I am 30.
O sea, debes de salir.
He said you must leave the mine and work outside.
A trabajar debes.
What are you going to do?
Bueno, yo también pienso...
I would like to work outside.
De ahora no voy a poder mantener también a mi familia, porque afuera se gana poco, más poco.
But I would not be able to keep the family, because I would earn so little.
So you expect to stay working in the mine?
Sí.
In the town, those who can't be miners are beasts of burden. Laborers hoping for pennies, hurrying along the margin of the money economy. Most Bolivians are peasants beyond the margin, but they do have a little land. A man who leaves the mine is landless. He has nothing. Sigloventi has served Bolivia well. It has earned thousands of millions of dollars from abroad. Almost none of the money has come back to the town. It is taken to finance a nation which is still a pauper. Sigloventi has served the world well too. The price of tin is determined in the international marketplace, and the price has dropped. It is lower now than 10 years ago, and there are other countries in the Third World where tin is cheaper to produce. And if these countries get together to force up the price, we in the West will discard tin cans for plastic bottles.
It is countries far away from here that benefit from our minerals which give them a standard of living much higher than our own. And yes, I believe that they are responsible for the condition of Bolivia today. They consider us no more than a country whose job it is to provide them with raw materials. They control every aspect of our lives.
Bolivia is trapped in a world where prices are measured in pounds and dollars and not in human lives. The tin is running out, yet there are no funds for investment or exploration, no future in Sigloventi. "15 years in this mine at 15,000 feet breaks a man. Not to build a new Bolivia, but to save the old one from collapse." The company hospital, the silicosis TB ward, men in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. All of them are dying. Dying because Bolivia is too poor to eradicate TB, too poor to ventilate the mines. Dying because the world wants cheap tin. Florencio Piedra Rojas, Marcelino Padilla Floras, Feliciano Ramos Manima, Manuel Alanda Athude. The funeral of a miner, Ronaldo Fernandez Medina, who died of silicosis TB. His wife Antonia and her 7 children must now leave their company house destitute. There are 6,000 miners in this town. Last year, 435 of them died of the same disease, silicosis TB. 38 burials every month. In Sigloventi, the life expectancy of a miner is 37 years. In the 20th century, that is the price of tin.